Lane,
Here.
DeVore.
First item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. No additions or corrections as I see. Anybody have anything? All right.
Motion to approve.
Second. Roll call.
Mordini,
Yes.
Sarchet,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
DeVore.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 4, public comments. Time and place for anyone in the audience to speak on any item other than those on a public hearing. Hearing none, seeing none. Moving on to item 5, consent agenda. It's relatively long. I'd take a motion.
Motion to approve consent agenda as stated, as written.
Second. Questions, discussion? Roll call.
Mordini,
Yes.
Sarchet,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
DeVore.
Yes.
Motion carries. It would take,
Just 1 second.
quick
I'm sorry if I
moment.
missed the,
what's that?
can I talk about the consent agenda?
I was going to bring something on it real quick, and then I'll let you do it. I just wanted to specifically thank a couple people who were stepping down from years of service on the Parks Commission, both Sam Hill and Bob Perez. Sam is stepping down due to a change of work schedule and some family commitments, and Bob's term was coming to an end. The other people on that list were all contacted and have since re-upped their appointments, so I appreciate all of their time. Anything else?
Yeah, I just wanted to acknowledge Willie Ostrander for his service, and he called me shortly, I think, after he talked to you, Mike, and used to be neighbors, and wasn't looking for a job, and I think was a hard worker and somebody that we'll miss, but he had a good opportunity that he earned, and happy for him and his opportunity, but from the city's perspective would be a loss for us. So just wanted to thank him for his
Yeah, almost 5 years, so yeah,
yeah, we can round up 5 years.
almost 5.
Agreed.
Yeah, agreed.
Well stated. Moving on to item 6, new business. Action item 1, Polk City Area 2 Urban Renewal Plan. Item A, consider motion to approve second reading of ordinance 2016-2800, approving divisions of revenue under Iowa Code Section 403.19 for amendment number 3 to the Polk City Area 2 Urban Renewal Plan. Take a motion.
So move. Second.
Roll call.
DeVore.
Yes.
Mordini,
Yes.
Sarchet,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item B, optional to consider motion to waive the third reading of ordinance 2016-2800. Comments, questions, discussion, motion?
Is there an advantage to doing that? I know Dan is probably going to ask, that's why I did. Right hand.
Well, I understand why it's here, is to give us the option. It's,
I want to see this.
there's, best way I can explain this is there's no disadvantage to doing this. We just complete it with 2 readings instead of 3. Any agreements that are reached that are based on the urban renewal plan would have to go to a public hearing and would move through the process as well, and would also direct the division of funds in the same manner. So it's about 50-50. It doesn't really change anything because there's not going to be anything between now and January 12th. It's just the option that should the council decide they want to move forward and dispense of the third reading of this ordinance, and my comments would be the same under the Deerhaven Urban Renewal Plan, that you can do it.
Have we had any, has anybody received any correspondence about this at all, to the public? Or?
There's been none.
Thoughts? Motion.
I'll make a motion to waive the third reading.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mordini,
Yes.
Sarchet,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
DeVorak.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 2, Deer Haven Urban Renewal Plan. Item A, consider motion to approve second reading of ordinance 2016-2900, approving divisions of revenue under Iowa Code Section 403.19 for Deer Haven Urban Renewal Plan. Take a motion.
So moved. Second.
Roll call.
DeVorak.
Yes.
Mordini,
Yes.
Sarchet,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Motion carries. Item B, option to consider motion to waive the third reading.
Same question. Have we received anybody saying?
No, sir.
Conversely, there's been nobody contacted and asking us to speed it along either, has there?
Correct.
Make a motion to waive the third reading.
Second.
Roll call, please.
DeVorak.
Yes.
Mordini,
Yes.
Sarchet,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 3, consider motion to approve Resolution 2016-128, approving First Amendment to agreement for private development with 3100 LLC. Gary?
This is a development agreement that we have with 3100 LLC. This is on Parker Boulevard. Basically, what we're doing with this amendment is making sure that this agreement is dealing with and only with public improvements. And this amendment makes that quite clear.
I have a question regarding the wording, specifically the use of grants, economic development grants. I thought all of our TIFs were rebate.
They are. But that's the word that is, or the catch-all that is used because it's a way that a local government can grant monies to a developer. We do it by a rebate regime.
And the rest of the agreement, Dan, is clear that it's a rebate. This is just the language that the bond attorney used for this particular provision. But it's very clear in the rest of the agreement.
Well, you're a lawyer. You know what happens in the courtroom when there's ambiguity between two documents.
Well, and that's why they wanted the change that they did, because they wanted to make sure that this was language that was very specific to the language that's used in the Iowa Code. That was the change in language came from bond counsel.
As long as you're happy with it. I'm not, but
Is this different than how we've handled it in the past? I don't quite remember this.
Actually, no. This is just an addition that we're making, so there's absolutely no question that these are public improvements that have been made.
was there anything that spurred it to be done now as opposed to 2 months from now or half a year down the road? Or
They were looking, it was just in the matter of the plan amendments, they were looking at the agreements, and so they just wanted to get it cleaned up at this time. It was just in their normal review of agreements that were in the TIF district. That's what spurred it.
Well, if I'm understanding, then we probably should have been doing this all along, but weren't. Is that correct? Or is this situation different than other situations?
The urban renewal laws and TIF laws are always in flux year to year. And as amendments have come down through the state legislature, these two agreements, this one and the one for the 12 Oaks, needed some refinement. And since we were at a discussion point with Urban Renewal Area 2, it seemed like the right time to make the adjustments to these two development agreements.
Okay. I'm still not sure I understand, but,
It didn't change the obligations at all.
okay.
It doesn't change what the developer is getting. It just, the bond council wanted to make sure it was very clear in the agreement that the only reimbursements are for the public improvements. And that's what this language does. It makes absolutely certain that the developer's only being reimbursed for public improvements, not any private improvements.
Protects the city. in
Yeah,
essence.
exactly.
Take a motion.
So move.
Second. Roll call.
Dvorak,
Yes.
Mordini,
Yes.
Sarchet,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 4, consider motion to approve resolution 2016-129, approving the First Amendment to agreement for private development of 12 Oaks LLC. Same thing.
Exact same thing. It's, make sure that there's a distinction that all of these funds are for public improvements. They did not go for any other reason.
Perfect. Take a motion.
Motion to approve resolution 2016-129.
Second.
Roll call.
Mordini,
Yes.
Sarchet,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Dvorak.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 5, part of Outlot Y in Lakewood's Plat 1. Item A, consider motion to approve the third reading of ordinance 2016-2700, approving the rezoning of 7.62 acres to PUD. Motion.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
So just real quick.
Okay.
Just to state, I'm gonna vote same as I did before. Wish you guys well. Got the same concerns about the density that we kind of talked about the first time around, but you know, this is formality at this point. I'm just trying to stay consistent, but I hope things work out and it does what you guys set out to do.
Roll call.
Dvorak,
Yes.
Mordini,
Yes.
Sarchet.
No.
Anderson,
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item B, consider motion to approve resolution 2016-130, approving the master plan. Yes.
This was not in our packet, and it was still being looked to see if they could find it when the agenda was approved.
The summary was, I don't know what else was in.
That's all that I
All
have.
that's in the packet is the resolution.
In Dropbox, the summary, the master plan summary was right
Yeah,
attached to the
The map's in
resolution.
That's the same thing we've seen every time this has come up for a vote.
That's the same thing.
There's actually a master plan that
Yes.
it shows the cul-de-sac and.
Yeah, it's labeled PUD master plan.
Yes.
I have it.
This is the master plan.
It's in the agenda.
No, just that same map we've seen every time for 3, 4, whatever. There's something with the verbiage, not just a map. What other?
Need a motion?
So move.
Second. Roll call.
Dvorak,
Yes.
Mordini,
Yes.
Sarchet.
No.
Anderson,
No.
Lane.
Yes, I guess, just so we can get some entry-level housing.
Motion carries. Item 6, police station remodel. Item A, review and discuss the opinion of cost. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Have a good one.
Well, better be entry-level housing.
Who's taking this?
Trace?
You're up.
It's hiding out there.
Oh, I
Didn't know that was possible. I'm taking calls, so I didn't know that. I'm basically can answer any questions that I haven't covered with anybody. Mr. Olson's here from Big Creek Design Group also. So if anybody has any, I think I've been pretty thorough with everybody, explaining the needs, and that's what was in the project. Tim can speak more to it, but he is part of the fee that was approved to pay them to develop this. Brought in an expert that specializes in public safety buildings, police departments in particular. He did a walkthrough, and this was the best package we could put together. And I can give the floor to you, Tim, if you have anything you want to add.
It's all in the report, unless you have any specific questions.
My only question has nothing to do with the report or anything, just procedurally. Is there any reason, if we're going out for bids, that we have to approve B? Because it kind of seems to me that you're telling a contractor, go ahead and bid it for 3,099 because they're going to pay 310.
Well, I don't want to speak for Tim, but we're not going to do any bids for anybody unless we can tell them the funding's approved. They're not going to spend the time putting the bids together if they don't know if they're spending for the project, and it'll still be lowest bid.
Sure.
For it as well.
And we still have to approve it.
Yeah, you'll still have to go through the bidding
Right.
process.
Is that something I'm just blanking on tonight? Do we always have a number in there? I guess what I'm saying is you're kind of
Not for
Right.
most projects, no. You don't have a number at this point in time.
We just approve requesting for bids, right?
Right.
I mean, I maybe that backfired, but at the same time, if I was a bidder and I could do this for 270, I wouldn't come back to 270 because I know the city's got a check waiting for 310.
So is the question, why is this different than the bidding process for the?
I'm not saying no to the problem.
Yeah.
I'm just saying how do we?
My understanding was that was something that the city wanted. I mean, I wasn't involved in putting that
yeah.
together. It was something the city wanted to make sure that you were comfortable with the funds being there to move ahead.
I'm more
it was a
concerned with
matter-
going to a
Yeah.
contractor and say, give us something up to this number,
Yeah.
Tim, what'd you have?
So, two issues. One, the council should want to know what the estimated construction cost is, and you should be able to approve the project to move forward based on that estimate. You need to know whether it's a $300,000 project, $400,000, $500,000. That's the first step. Second step is when we let out drawings and specifications for bidding, for public work, there's a architect's estimate of probable cost. We'll usually give that as a range. We never put a dollar amount in there. What you have is a detailed cost estimate based on the drawings and the master planning that we prepared. But keep in mind that master plan is kind of the equivalent of schematic design. There's a lot more information that we did as part of this project, only because the scope of work is so small that we went further into the process. We're probably 50% design development, or maybe even 100% design development. There's a lot of detail here. So the estimate that was prepared is based on the drawings that we provided. In the specifications that get let out for bid, I would say architect's estimate would be $250,000 to $350,000. I would literally give a range of a $100,000 delta. At the end of the day, the city council should want to award the project to the lowest qualified bidder. And I don't want to tell anyone what we think the estimate is, because what we've given you is truly an estimate, not a bid. Our hope is that our estimate is appropriately conservative, such that bids would come in more competitively. But I'll also tell you that time of year is working in our favor right now, because contractors are always looking for work during the wintertime. You got kind of a nice project over here because it's all indoors, but it really kind of depends on when the actual construction process will be executed. But we're not going to tell a contractor what our estimate is. I'm going to give them a range, and they're going to have to pencil, they're going to have to submit their bid. We have had projects this year where we've estimated to the best of our ability, and bids have come in higher than our estimate. We don't like it when that happens, but at the same time, it's negligent of me to tell you our estimate's $350,000 or $400,000 just to make sure we're above the actual bid.
Yeah, and I agree with what you're saying. What I'm worried about is if we vote on this,
Okay, all
it's a
right.
record, so if somebody wanted to come back, they would say, well, this is what Tim's bid was.
So here's what
It's not a bid,
Public
it's just an
meeting, so
estimate.
the cap might be.
Yeah. So here's what I think we should do is.
Thank you.
Yeah, so here's what I think we should do is not take any action on B and just take action on C. Because the way B is written is that we're actually approving the project. And I think until we get bids back, we're not approving any
You're not
project.
approving anything. You
So
don't have
I think the best thing to
authorization
do is
approve
pull
it.
resolution 2016-132 off the plate. Just do
I mean, I wanted to see that number, but I.
Yeah,
didn't see
yeah,
anything.
no, right. I'm right there with you, but the way this resolution reads, and now therefore, I mean, we're saying we're gonna do this project. So if we pull B, do an RFP, get the bids,
It won't
we're
change
gonna,
anything at the end.
we're still gonna approve the project, but that means they ultimately have, if they all come back at $400,000, say no.
I would recommend that you approve the scope of work that's being proposed based on the drawings. Because then the scope of work is defined as it's been presented, but you don't have to approve a dollar amount, just approve the scope of work.
Are we doing that by just doing an
You could-
RFP?
You could put that as part of C.
Okay,
Yeah.
so what are we saying?
Make a motion to solicit requests for proposals and approve the scope of work.
Based on the scope of work.
And
Are you good
approve,
with that, Trace?
and
Yeah,
approve the work?
Says the same thing minus the number.
Right, I just was going off of guidance, not trying to throw it on
Yep.
anyone else.
No, that's fine.
From Tim as well, because what we initially were gonna do was ask for RFPs, that made sense to me. He explained to me that can be up to 10 hours of work for somebody if they don't know the funding's there, especially for such a small project as this. We're just not getting any bids.
No, I mean, that's, yeah, we're all at the same point.
Yep.
It's-
Yep,
We're on the same point, but I mean,
yeah, that's fine with me. I'm not the expert on how to write these or
These are
the process for it.
well, this figure is over $47,000 more than your estimate, which I do understand it's just an estimate. I've worked in the monitoring end of this business for 20 years. I know exactly what you're giving us.
So make a motion to,
So we're pulling B, going to C.
make a motion to, solicit requests for proposals and approve the scope of work that was listed under, or as part of resolution 2016-132. Is that right, Amy? Am I doing that?
That will work.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Who's first?
Go for it.
I understand there's some things we need by and visiting with Trace and visiting with Rob. There's some things that we need by law. But I'm wondering how much this we actually need and how much we just want.
Well, I mean, I can tell you there's no fluff in what we went through. That was, we actually made some concessions with, instead of building an actual armory for weapons ammunition, buying a cabinet for that was suitable. And that cut the cost by probably 80% for that. We also looked at any place we could save money, we did, because I mean, this is something that we want to meet, separately too and go over it, and I can explain things, but there's nothing in here that, like I said, Tim brought in a law enforcement building expert. We went through the building literally 5-foot sections and talked about where we put what, and how we could conserve costs and what could be the most financially responsible way to put it together and still meet the needs of what we need going forward.
There's a couple other things too, Ron, that really have to be done. We've got to provide separate toilet facilities for staff and for a detainee. Both facilities have to be ADA accessible. The portion of the tail wagging the dog on the whole design is the required space for detainees. Interview room with the detainee and their attorney, a holding area, toilet room. It's got to be secured from the rest of the facility. Another one of the concessions is they were hoping to get a place for their RTV or ATV and a trailer. We didn't have room for all that because they also needed room for lockers and for weapon storage. They're absolutely not getting everything that they want to have. I think that this plan gets them 5-6 years down the road with things that they absolutely need to have. But the other thing you have to reckon with too is that there's still required space for police chief, lieutenant, receptionist, 2 officers on duty, and that just takes so much space. We tried to keep as many of the walls in their current location as we could, but really the back half of the space had to change considerably. But from the standpoint of meeting the requirements from safety, security, et cetera, the plan does that. We're not going outside the existing building footprint. That's where real costs would add up if you added on to the building. My hope is that bids come in more competitive than our estimate, but our job is to give you an estimate that you can budget for. So my recommendation is to approve the process to move forward, wait and see where bids come in, and if for some reason the wheels fall off at that point, you can always go back and say, how do we save $25,000 or how do we save $50,000? But everything that's in the master plan, I think, is modest at best.
There was a lot of concessions we made with like the evidence processing. We took all the equipment out for evidence processing, which we don't have to have by law, but it would be very convenient to have for drug testing, for pulling fingerprints off things like burglary cases and car burglaries, where now we send it to the DCI and wait for 2 or 3 months. There was also concessions made where we eliminated any new furniture or fixtures other than what was required by construction. We're just going to reuse all of our old furniture, filing cabinets, and computers and everything. So it started out, I don't know what the dollar amount would have been because we didn't do the scope of work on that, but we started out, this would be great to have this stuff, and we made a lot of cuts to try to make it as like I said, financially responsible as possible.
If I could just add, I mean, I realize our hands are tied on some of this because of the Criminal Liberties Union, ACLU, but that set aside, I think, talking with Ron, I think I know what he's saying. If you were just to take the items, detention, the evidence facilities, things like that for legal purposes we have to have, is that probably, I mean, is there a way to attach, that really is 75% of the budget, or just to kind of help us understand that the stuff up above and beyond what is legally necessary really is a small portion or a large portion or whatever it is?
I would say 65 to 75%, but then there's also kind of a domino effect. Once you make room for those spaces, it moves the on-duty officers out of the space that they previously had into a smaller area. So that domino effect kind of forces you to, like restroom, for example, there's only one toilet room in that space right now, and it's not ADA compliant. We have to provide 2 ADA compliant restrooms in there. And so you end up having to cut up the floor, move plumbing, to add plumbing for the second one. So in a way, it's all kind of related. And then another good example is we had an initial layout that put a receptionist in there in remaining kind of leftover space. But it left that person with their back to the door, which is not a good situation. And in order to rotate that desk so their face is to the door from a safety and security standpoint, we had to cut a corner out of Trace's office to make room for that. So a lot of it, it's all related. And I mean, if you're going to pick, there's 3% of it that might not be necessary, but if we were there and we're going to do this at the same time.
But there's really, to do the stuff that we have a legal responsibility for, there's really no way to take this from 300 to 100. I mean, it's not that big of a type of thing. Okay.
If you want to save $25,000, I'll help you find a way to do that.
Right, but yeah, that's exactly what I meant.
You are dreaming.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say 95% of what's in there needs to be done, and it is a domino effect of how the building's structured. And to do it where we weren't moving a lot of the walls and up in the cost, we left the mechanicals in the same spot. And we make some concessions where I would have had more wants of how I wanted to flow and be designed, where we worked with the existing structure of the building to meet the needs and to lower the cost as well when we were walking through with it.
But do you see this kind of what he had mentioned earlier? If we do get the whole scope done for what we need to do it for,
Yep.
Do you see this as something that can be a minimum of a 5-year building?
Oh, I think that it's going to depend on city growth. I would say 5 to 7. I mean, I hate to say that I think we go well beyond 5 years with it.
I think what some of the concern would be is if all of a sudden next year miracle happens and we build Taj Mahal, which we're not, but then all of a sudden people just want to scrap the building, and I wouldn't want to put that in there if we know we're going to do that, but we don't.
Well,
we never know that.
I don't want to get too far in the weeds, but I think before I started here, it had been discussed that possibly new facilities development,
going on forever.
The fire department would move over into that. Mm-hmm. And I've talked with Dan, and we've even looked at what the initial plans on. So I didn't do anything over there that really screwed up if he, where he would have to do a bunch of reconstruction if they were going to move into part or all of it down the road as well.
So it could be adapted.
I guess to that end, I would say I'm completely fine with there being some non-legally requirement or nice to have things in here, given that we are having work being done and would hopefully be cheaper to do as part of a larger project and chunked up over the next several years. But it does, in in my opinion, further tie us to the area that we're in to spend this kind of money. I don't know what that time frame is, but if we're gonna spend this money to upgrade, then I think that is another reason why we should stay where we are. And I know that's part of a larger decision. I don't want this to get in the way of this particular thing, especially since we're initially just requesting bids, but.
You guys are right on in that. Thank you for making you express my thoughts very
No, I think we're
clearly.
all thinking the same thing, but yeah.
Yeah, and that was the next question I had, is we spend this money over here, and then we all know we want a new city hall. If we get all that stuff later on, which I don't know if it'll happen, probably.
Well, I actually think his plan helps that
Yeah.
design
I think there are opportunities.
because of the way that Sallyport would change. I mean, I think that opens up some other doors that,
That wouldn't have been otherwise.
Mhm.
We really tried to take a global kind of thought process on this when we looked at it, and Tim was great to work with, as well as the specialists he brought down from the Twin Cities to go over for the law enforcement perspective of it. And he asked me questions I hadn't even thought of, and I've been doing this for 16 years. I mean, I feel like we've been as thorough as possible and tried to get a lean of a dollar amount in there as possible to make this viable. And I hate to say it'll last 10 years because city growth grows exponentially the way it has been, and then 10 years won't be feasible because we would have, 7, 8, 9, 10 officers, and they're not all going to fit in there to have computer usage, files, gear area, and things like that.
Another good example, I think, too, is when we first started the process, Trey said, for guns and ammunition storage, we need a closet that is lockable and is secure, so there's plywood and drywall. It's got to be 5 foot by 5 foot. When we did layout, we didn't have room. So we came back and said, hey, how about gun cabinets? How about equipment that you can accomplish the same thing, but then relocate it to your new facility in the future? Ended up being a great compromise. So there were some things that we literally didn't have room for. Don't have room for locker rooms, evidence processing, and an ATV, and a trailer. Had to make some choices. So I think the decisions that have been made have been very diligent and forward-thinking. And there's very few things in this design that would not be usable by the fire department in the future.
Any questions?
Did you say would not be usable for the fire?
There's very few things in this design that would not be usable by the fire department. One example I can think of, Ron, is we got what's called a evidence drop box. That think of it as going to the post office and all the post office boxes, but they can put different size pieces of evidence in. It drops in, you can't get it out. It has to be removed from the inside. That doesn't get built in a wall. Well, when they move to a new facility, they won't take that piece of equipment with them because they're going to spend a few $1,000s on it. So they're going to remove that. So then there's a hole in the wall that needs to be patched or repaired. If the fire department wants it in that way, that's one of the only things I can think of where what's left behind has to be addressed in some way by the fire department. Everything else, offices, toilet rooms, maybe not the holding room, but the vast majority of this, I'd say 80% of it can be reused as is by the fire department in the future.
Can't use a holding cell.
Someday. Roll call.
Dvorak,
Yes.
Mordini,
Yes.
Sarchet,
Yes.
Anderson,
No.
Lane.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 7, consider motion to approve resolution 2016-133, approving Rick Genti Law Firm attorney invoice for October 2016 service amount of $5,925.94.
Motion to approve resolution 2016-133.
Second.
Questions? Yes.
It was just simply a mathematical error, the discrepancy on the invoice. Yes.
It was just the summary page.
Summary page. I didn't go through and add all of those individual things. All right.
Roll call.
Dvorak,
Yes.
Mordini,
Yes.
Sarchet,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 7, Mayor's Report. Reminder that we don't have a meeting on the 26th, so this is it for the year. Wonderful. So thanks for a very successful 2015. Don't forget about the annual food day. Yes, that's important. Ron just reminded me of that, so I would hate to miss
And
out
I'll
on that.
probably be the one to forget it.
Yeah, you're right. We'll put it in your iPad so you get a reminder.
Yeah. Now I'll be home trying to figure out how to pull that up.
Sorry, I didn't mean to say it. What I did want to hit on real quick was the square lighting from a week ago, and just what a overwhelmingly positive event that is. I want to thank Public Works. Mike, you and I started talking about this in October of this year, and your guys are just, they're standing over there waiting for those lights to turn on. We don't have guys ducking behind bushes this year. It was great, but they were there, so it was, but look what it's become. You guys are a huge part of it, and I thank you and Randy and the rest of your staff. You guys are over there waiting for the lights to go on and like going around making sure everything's still there. So, I publicly thank you guys for your work. I know they take it seriously. But I made it a point that night I was able to get around every business on the square, talk to virtually every business owner or manager. Everybody was happy. They were packed from the minute people got here. I mean, Santa had people on his lap until 8:15. So it keeps getting bigger, and I know there'll be an article coming out in the Tri-County Times regarding that in the near future. But anyway, I want to thank staff. You guys did a great job. Police, fire, everybody did a wonderful job in making that event happen. It's a tremendously positive event for our community. So, and lastly, there was an article in the Des Moines Register today regarding DART and what we're doing. The letters have gone out. Gary and staff, I thank you guys for getting that done. We'll see what comes of that. So, with that being said, I think it was a well-written article by the Des Moines Register. That's all I have. Mr. Sargent.
Well, I'll take the cue from Mayor Front Page over here and continue to, I do need to, so for square lighting, sitting up in the seat, I try to put myself in other people's shoes, and it's difficult to do at sometimes, and I'm not going to be able to not do that this time, but as a parent with kids, I don't think we do anything that makes me more proud to be a resident and citizen of this town. And Mike, your team did a great job. The chamber, everybody. It's just a really neat. Even though we could have had that good weather for one more day, but we didn't. But anyway, it is a really special thing and a neat evening. On another note, so the Greater Des Moines Partnership last week put out their legislative agenda for 2017, and for the first time, and as far as I could go back, included in that is partnership supports provisions to provide Central Iowa communities more local control of sales tax revenues. I think that's specifically driven by a couple communities that are going for a specific route there. For me, that I think raises the level of priority that takes, that they sort of engage that group. We've talked about local option sales tax as more of a cautionary thing to be aware of. I think for 2017, that takes a little bit more of a priority, at least for me, to be more proactive. I think that takes a number of fronts, but I do want to handle a few things a little bit differently, involve the chamber. The chamber is a part of the Greater Des Moines Partnership, and I want them to have a role in deciding what those legislative items are and be involved in that process. So I think with the change that we made recently and voted on, I think we're now maybe equipped to do that a little bit better than we had been in the past. I also think it's going to have, at least again, from my perspective, a budgetary impact on where I think our priorities lie, and a few other fronts as we move into 2017. But don't want to belabor that point too much, but I think it is significant. I think it's something that we need to be very thoughtful with how we handle. So that's all I have.
Mr. Anderson.
Just a couple things. I'll do the positive ones first. Thank you for your, in the paper, that come across really good. I thought was well written and well spoken. And
Thank you.
Very positive. And also the square lighting, as a guy who goes back to when we used to try and do it with volunteers, as a guy who was a volunteer before, this is so much smoother now. You guys, it looks better.
Did you stand in the bushes at one time and plug in lights?
No,
Okay.
but I ran ahead with the rest of them.
Okay.
When they thought the fuse was going to blow, I did do that.
So do you
But-
remember, Mike,
but-
Mike said there used to be only 50 people there. Do you remember there only being 50 people at Square Lighting?
Well, maybe on one of those real, I've missed a couple, but not many.
Okay, I'm just
One of those
checking.
real cold nights.
50 people.
I can remember in this room when this was still a garage, being down here for all day on a Saturday, just untangling lights and I heard them getting put up. So it's appreciated the work that you guys do above and beyond, and here in City Hall, just great reception, and everybody has smiles on their face, and it looks good for the public, and everybody you see visiting has a smile on their face. So thank you all, staff and Public Works.
Good job.
I've had a complaint about the sidewalk being torn out over here and on the corner
By the stop.
by the old Broken Arrow, yes. Only one, but it was a complaint. Said about, trying to walk downtown.
They were over there doing some work a couple weeks ago, and then all of a sudden they left.
They had an unfortunate surprise where they need to put footings under the building that is left.
Mhm.
And they're trying to get that figured out so they can move forward.
I read that somewhere, but that just confused me more because I didn't know what that had to do with the sidewalk, but that's just me. I don't
How they're going to be getting into that area to make sure they get the footings in there correctly.
So, okay, that's all I had. I hope there was some better answers, because that's one of my pet peeves is contractors that come in and dig holes and then just leave them. Thank you, that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
You bet, Mr. Lane.
I don't really have anything other than to echo everybody else. My thanks to any and everybody that had anything to do with the square lighting. It gets better every year, bigger every year. It just reflects well on the city and its staff, and I appreciate that.
Same, as my daughter would say. And a couple of, I want to also, like the mayor mentioned about Sam Hill and Bob Freeze, their commitment to the Parks Commission for the past several years. I want to thank them for that, the time and effort. Also noticed that there's a comprehensive training program for the police, and wanted to thank Trace for putting that together and recognize Officer Lanford for, first of all, putting him through that and making that an opportunity for him, the field training officer, and then doing the low lights shooting. I think those are all huge nowadays. It's just important to have that continued education, and I know that was one of the focuses we had, is continued ed, and just wanted to shout out for that.
Martini.
Again, echoing everything on the square, I think that's one thing that makes small towns great. We do things like that. It plays a big part for the entire community and reflects on us all well. I liked your most recent claim to fame there in the Register, and I'm not sure if they watch this now or if they don't. Since it's not here, I don't know if they watch videos. I'm not sure how they get their news sometimes, but if they're going to jump on all the comments, I wish they would, if you're watching, somehow or another illustrate the point that we were paying approximately, depending on whose numbers you believe, $230 to $250 per ride. That's a lot of Uber.
A lot of money.
And I know that's never been brought across when we're hearing two sides of the story, but I think taxpayers deserve to know that too. And once again, on that lost, maybe the Des Moines Partnership has contacted us, but we're really part of the Greater Des Moines Partnership. I would like to have somebody reach out to us. I have very big doubts that anybody's going to vote to raise their taxes again in this limelight, but I guess just keep throwing money at it.
Thank you. Council discussion, I just have one quick thing to add on that, is that this is our last meeting, and Mr. Mahan and I earlier today were speaking regarding the numbers and where we're at. 2016 is our biggest year, I think by all accounts, by even some of the preliminary numbers that are coming in. I look forward to getting those numbers finalized and hopefully out by February, I think is kind of the goal. But anyway, 2016, I'm honored to sit in this chair, and I'll tell you, I think it's been a great year, and I'm really looking forward to 2017. So. City Administrator.
Just a couple of things to jump on to the discussion with DART. I understand from a text that I received from my wife this evening that KCCI carried a story on 3 communities that were leaving DART, and Polk City was specifically mentioned. January 6th, Friday, January 6th, we staff will be back in with our attorneys in the Ellis case. I will tell you that from the day that that case was last heard to today, there's been no movement. And that's all I have at this time.
The 6th is another hearing date, or that's a...
Right.
Yeah,
That was the hearing,
Okay.
the last hearing was continued to give her an opportunity to do certain things that were
Remember that now.
enumerated.
Yep.
Gave her
And
4
we-
months, right? And then that's
Yes.
the 4-month date.
Yeah, and we've obviously been keeping in touch with Gary and the rest of the staff to find out where things are and know the status of it, and so are gearing up to be ready to proceed on the 6th to ask for control of that property.
Perfect. Thank you.
Excellent. Attorney's report.
I was going to give the update that Gary just gave on Ladella, so no, nothing other than Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
You too. Engineer.
I have nothing, Your Honor.
Public
Happy
Works.
holidays.
Happy holidays. Public Works.
I too would like to publicly thank Willie for his service to Polk City. He had multiple skill sets, and he's going to be really hard to replace, to be honest with you. And but I do wish him great success in his new job, and he's really excited about it. So anyway, I just wanted to say thank you publicly to Willie.
Absolutely. Technology.
Nothing per se.
Finance. Fire Department.
I just have one thing. We apply for a couple grants every year, and unfortunately there was a press release out by the state before I could come to tell you that we were selected for a grant. It's a DNR grant for wildland fire, and so it comes out every year. We apply for it. It's a small grant. I think the max is like $3,500 cost share grant. And we always apply for it just because of the amount of state land that we cover. Kind of think they should fund some of that. So usually I would get that to you before the press release comes out, and for some reason this year they were on top of it. And so I didn't get it in the memo before that press release came out. But I think we got a $2,500 grant from them. That's a cost share grant, and then it looks like the Firefighter Association is going to kick in some money on that. So I'll come back with you in January, first meeting in January, details on it, but kind of a good thing. Thanks.
Police Department.
One thing I have to add, other than my report that was in the packet, was I just also found out that we received a grant through the Government Traffic Safety Bureau for $4,500 to add a in-car video camera for one of the patrol cars. So our systems are pretty old. They're 7 to 8 years old, which is about the life expectancy of those. So that'll be good. We'll be able to switch one of those out ahead of schedule then.
Good job. Thank you. Good job out of you too. Yeah, love free money. Library, citizen liaison, need a motion to adjourn for the year?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.